My exposure with the SNES is about as limited as my exposure with the Zelda franchise. To date, I've played 4 games on it, besides Link to the Past: the Fire Emblem's Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia 776, Earthbound, and Super Metroid. However, with each of these games, I'm astonished at just what the developers were able to accomplish on that console. Up until now, NES Zelda had impressed me, even if I didn't enjoy 2 all that much, and I was curious to see what Nintendo did with the next entry in the franchise. What I can say is that describing A Link to the Past as a generational leap might be one of the greatest understatements I could ever make. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you're not, to the great Legend of Zelda Marathon. For those of you who don't know, my goal was to play through the whole Legend of Zelda franchise entirely blind. In the past, I've only ever beaten Phantom Hourglass, having dropped most of the other games in the series I've attempted to play within the first 30 minutes. I won't be going into every detail of this playthrough. A Link to the Past took me as long as the first 2 games combined, and I can already tell that this is going to be a slightly longer video. If you want to see my full playthrough, check out the link that just popped up above, the VOD playlist, or check out the link in the video description. I knew I was in for something special as soon as I launched the game for the first time. The title screen had 3D on it, something we hadn't seen up until now. I had just finished with Zelda 2 about an hour before, and as I've mentioned, it wasn't my favorite game in the world, and I was really ready for something new. And something new I got. Immediately, you could tell the generational gap between the NES and the SNES. Movement was no longer on a fixed grid, and running to save the princess had me interacting with the environment again, like picking up grass blocks to reveal secret passages. Oh yeah, I'm thinking we're back. And from here, we progress through the opening segments, rescuing Zelda and being told to gather amulets from a few different points around the world. The minimap was absolutely stunning after so long in the first 2 games. It was just so cool having a map in this pseudo 3D style that showed not only where I was, but the entire world as it existed. My inventory also had so many spots. Surely we wouldn't be able to collect them all. We made our way through the world, slowly but surely. The combat was a bit weird at first, but not in a bad way. It was more in a, I've been playing a side-scroller for so long, I've forgotten how this type of combat worked. And to be honest, I don't have much experience with it either. I found myself hitting a lot of the guards' shields early on for no damage, and generally just slowly working my way through each of the beginner dungeons, only getting lost a little bit. Besides the game being a lot more polished than the other ones, I would say that nothing of crazy really happened for a bit. That is, until I walked up to a silly looking spot on top of the Hyrule Mountains. I went through and became a bunny. How strange. And then, well, let's just watch it together. Wait, no, I didn't mean to do that. Oh god, wait, oh god. Oh, wait, hold on. What? What? There's a second map? What do you mean? What do you... No, I know this time. No, I know this time. Those buildings look different than they do on the regular map. I'm not crazy, okay? Oh, I certainly wasn't. What the hell were these guys cooking with? Because this was chef's kiss. I eagerly moved through the game, ready to see when I would be able to walk around this dark world without being a bunny, and soon I got my wish. After finishing another dungeon and Zelda getting kidnapped again, it was up to me to explore Hyrule and unlock the mystery of both worlds. And while I may not have been the fastest, holy shit, did I have fun. All of a sudden, I had 8 more dungeons to figure out. I had heart containers only accessible by maneuvering through both the light world and then teleporting to the dark world, and then teleporting back to the light world. My heart container adventure just got a lot longer. And oh, by the way, now you needed 4 heart pieces for a heart container. This is when I think I realized how much of an undertaking this event was really going to be. That's a lot more heart pieces to find, but with another world to explore, at least it wouldn't get stale. The new dungeons were all pretty interesting as well. It felt like they were all absolutely huge and had multiple subsections in order to defeat each part. Not only that, but the bosses of both the light world and the dark world were actually fun to fight. I will never be over Rabonut. Even the silly worm that knocks you off the tower was at least funny in that regard, and the game gives you hearts in the jars to heal with. It's quite nice. I could tell how much effort went into this game in just about every nook and cranny. The years between the adventure of Link showed up in so many different ways. From better looking graphics, better enemies to fight, and significantly more things to do. Even really early on, I found joy just in the smallest of things. Get out of here. I want to talk. Get out here. Fucking... Just let me in, please. You don't understand, I need to go in. Please, sir, let me in. I just want to talk. And, not to mention, swimming mechanics. Look at it, look at his... It's the small things that make an experience memorable, right? And the experience took me everywhere. Mountains, rivers, forests, you name it. Even to the bottom of wells. I found myself constantly running back and forth every time I found a new item, looking for something new I could use it on. However, the area I returned the most had little to do with looking for new heart containers or items. What place could possibly hold such a prestigious honor? Well, let's play a money-making game. I lived in the shooting gallery. Anytime I needed money, shooting gallery. Anytime I needed to think, shooting gallery. I was passing by, you guessed it, shooting gallery. I ran this man for every rupee he had. I loved this stupid little room, and that's only one of the little mini games the game had to offer. Treasure chest guessing. Shoveling as fast as you possibly could. They were prominent features that not only I, but also my community's Gamba addicts enjoyed greatly. As I mentioned before, we spent far longer in Link to the Past than we did in any other game. And I think part of that is owed to the fact that we had 2 maps to explore, obviously, but it also felt the fastest of the games. I may have spent hours running around looking for a way into the Dark World desert, only to realize I was a single rock away from finding it so many times. But even during my quest, I found other things. And not just heart containers, sword upgrades, buffed items, even little quests that people in the world would give me to go on, usually leading to some reward or another. And the world felt so alive too with these quests. You had so many people you could talk to, and it was something that Zelda 2 did really well that I was happy to see return in this entry. I'm sure nobody from my stream forgets the quest for the Super Bomb, a multi-part extravaganza that if you have time, I highly recommend you check out in its entirety. It was incredibly eventful with plenty of trips to the shooting gallery in between. And all the while, we were hunting for heart containers. Don't worry, we still are going strong. All 20 were found in this game. There were some moments that were a bit sketchy, like me walking by heart containers that were on the screen, but overall it went out without a hitch. And I think that speaks to the depth and just how good the puzzles were in Link to the Past. They seemed significantly more fleshed out than the other games. Many of the puzzles felt like you had multiple solutions. For example, take the invisible paths within some of the mountain areas. I could use my lightning medallion to see the path temporarily, making slow progress in hopefully not falling off and encountering my arch nemesis, the ledge. Or I could create blocks and I could push them, watching as they disappear over the invisible edge and knowing now to change directions. I know I keep saying it and I'm sure it's getting annoying, but it was such a breath of fresh air after Adventure of Link. I know so little about the franchise other than most people discuss only a handful of the games, and I was worried a lot of the original ones would be very experimental. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind a weird game or something that might be a little less polished around the edges, but something that plays well and looks good, even in 2025, is always going to be a win in my book. I will, for the sake now of not solely praising everything, give you my biggest hate of the game, which was the flying mushroom looking guys who dropped bombs. They can get fucked. What an annoying enemy to fight. Every time I would try to shoot them, they would fly away or manage to hit me a whole bunch, making stopping to try and take them down a pain where I'd lose most of my health. But even then, we have Octoroks again. Can I really be upset for long? And not only the regular enemies. As I mentioned before, the bosses in this game were also setting a new standard for the series. Yes, even Dagutail. Each boss fight felt unique. Each one had different mechanics, usually involving an item you found in the dungeon the boss was present in. And none of them were so difficult that it felt unfair. If you were fighting a big enemy surrounded in clouds, it made sense that you would use your recently acquired grappling hook to separate the individual tufts from the swarm. Dagutail, as the name suggests, had a glowing tail for you to hit. Even Ognim shot spells you had to reflect. Each of them, simple ideas, but really well executed. And I think that's one of the things that this game does better than both Zelda 1 and 2. Zelda 1 had a lot of interesting fights, but many of them came down to try and hit the enemy as many times as you can before you ran out of health. And Zelda 2 had some fights that just were so hard they felt unfair. Might I add again that the lack of Iron Knuckles in this game, at least in such force that they appeared in previous entries, was very, very welcome. It really makes me look forward to the rest of the series and seeing how they further improved everything, because I know they did. It's been going on for 21 games and is one of the most critically acclaimed series I think I could name. But enough about the future. It was time for me to save the present. I battled my way through each of the dungeons, taking frequent breaks to do my beloved shooting gallery when the rupees dried up, or to search for the next heart piece to expand my health bar, all the while discovering just about everything both the light and dark world had to offer. And eventually, my journey was nearly complete. It was time for me to once again face Ganon in order to save the world. With all of the Sage's daughters and Zelda saved, it was time to finally end this. And, to be quite honest, it went great. We went through Ganon's different phases, making sure in the final one to try to keep the lights on as best we could, something I will not soon forget. And with a few silver arrows, Hyrule was once again safe. This time, however, it was bittersweet. To say I loved this game wouldn't properly convey just how much fun I had. And part of the frustration I have sometimes when trying to talk about games is I just don't know what it is that caused that reaction. I can't quite pin it. The world felt more alive, like it did in Zelda 2. The top-down camera and combat from Zelda 1 were brought back, and then it proceeded to do more than I could have ever imagined. We managed to find most of the items in the game, missing only some quiver upgrades and the final sword upgrade, if I remember right. And it just baffles me how much they managed to add to the game. Medallions, bottles, bows, bombs, an ocarina, staveves, a grappling hook, multiple upgrades for each, and more. And the best part was how rewarding it was to find each new thing. Each item unlocked new areas of the map. It allowed me to solve more puzzles, try different things, fight new enemies. Another game I played that has one of the most incredible stories I've ever gone through is Horizon Zero Dawn. And while I won't spoil anything for the game in terms of story, it's in this moment I think of some of its mechanics. Briefly, Horizon has several items that allow you to trap the giant machine monsters to help level the playing field for Aloy and her bow. However, I ended up shooting most of them with just the different arrow types. Every problem I encountered in that game could just be shot away. And to be fair, I did not complete it as thoroughly as I did this one. But there were certain items I felt like I never brought out. Tripwires, bombs, I'm sure there was a fourth item and I can't even remember it. I would just stack triple arrows up and shoot every enemy until, well, they died. And while you could probably do that in this one, I never felt like I wanted to. I wanted to see what would happen if I used a grappling hook on an Octorok. I wanted to know which enemies could be frozen and thawed using my fire and ice staves. Every item was simple. There was no stat line, there was no rarities, and in a world filled with games as wide as an ocean and deep as a puddle, it was a breath of fresh air to see something that had so much depth. Something where the focus wasn't how big can I make this world, but instead more how detailed, how alive you could make each and every space, each and every screen feel. For how much I'm talking about how much there was to do, there's a lesson I feel in this game's simplicity. And that's not to say that complicated is worse. I'm a huge fan of games like Victoria 3 and X4 Foundations, and those look like Excel spreadsheets with graphics. But doing a simple game well is so difficult. How do you create a puzzle that is complicated enough to make the player think, but simple enough that anyone can figure it out with enough work, and then provide 3 or 4 solutions to completing it, some which my chat talked about never having seen before? I'm sure many of you have seen the Amazon listings for live, laugh, love style quotes about journeys and destinations. But this game really felt like it embodied that. I didn't care about the fact that I needed to go fight Ganon. Obviously I would, but it was the meantime that was so memorable. Why is this great fairy fountain wanting me to throw items in? Why does this chest guessing game have 40 chests for me to try and figure out? Where the fuck are these blacksmiths? Why are the lumberjacks cutting down that tree? Before I knew it, I was looking forward more and more to every weekend, hoping to get more progress done on Link to the Past. That's not to say I wasn't looking forward to the previous 2 games. I was. But this one captured me. It pulled me in. And it did it in such a way that was so simple, but charming. Charming. That's the word I'd use to describe A Link to the Past. If it isn't painfully obvious, I gave the game a 10. It's a game so good that I'm excited to eventually run randomized runs of it. And hopefully those with Super Metroid. Something that I don't often do for games unless I really, really love them. Like my very rare Resident Evil door randomizer. My morale for the franchise, again, hadn't been shaken by Adventure of Link, but had it, Link to the Past certainly pushed it higher than I thought it could go. If you're curious, I am playing through all of these games live on my Twitch channel, TSwizzle01, where I'm doing much better at making progress than I am at making the videos here. I'm live at 8 p.m. EST every day, but Monday or Tuesday, depending on my schedule, and the Zelda days are on the weekends. If you've made it this far, consider watching my sanity slip beyond my reach as I #deny the moon. I'll talk about it when we get there, but I was really banking on it being in Ocarina of Time. The moon, that is. Thanks again for everyone's patience, and I hope to be starting Link's Awakenings video soon, but who really knows what soon means? For now, consider doing all the YouTube things. It really helps this channel out. Thank you for the luxury of your time. Please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye for now.